Okay, so hello. So our leadership topic that we're talking about is when a mold doesn't fit, a true leader makes her own mold. So leadership is important in all facets of life. Throughout our life, leaders help shape who we are and help guide us through life. They can be anyone in our life, including somebody in the community, someone in our family, or somebody in history that we inspire to be. So today we're going to discuss with you why we think leadership is important and how we try to develop it in ourselves. So we'll start with an introduction, and through that we're going to have a group activity, which is kind of like an icebreaker, where we're going to find things in common with each other. And then we are going to talk about leadership traits, and so we'll talk about different leadership traits and how some are different, some are similar. And then we'll go into the picture frame activity with that, where we'll be making picture frames which you guys can take home, and we'll write the different traits on the frames. And then through that, we'll talk about some examples of leaders in our lives, and then we'll have a conclusion, and then we'll have time at the end for a question and answer session. So we will start, I guess, by introducing ourselves. So I'm Christina Coleman, and I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, and I'll be graduating from here in December.
I'm Lily Brown. I'm from West Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm graduating in May.
My name is Cole McGill. I'm from Muscatine, Iowa, and I will also be graduating in May.
My name is Brendan McGuire. I'm from Urbandale, Iowa, and I will also be graduating from here in May.
My name is Anthony Wild. I'm from Coralville. Quick show of hands, who here thinks that I am one of the teachers? Well, I'm not. I'm actually one of the students as well, and I will be graduating in May.
So now that we've all introduced ourselves, we're going to go into icebreaker, which Lily will be leading.
All right, so I'm going to start you guys off with a riddle. So consider this. A man and his son are in a terrible accident and are rushed to the hospital in critical care. The doctor looks at the boy and exclaims, "I can't operate on this boy. He's my son." How could that be? Does anybody have an answer? I know when all of us were asked this riddle at first, we came up with a few different conclusions. One, the boy has two dads. Two, it's the grandfather. But no, the doctor is his mom. So the reason that most of us might not jump to that conclusion is that a lot of us have preconceived notions of what a leader is. And that's not true. So that's really what we're talking about today is how leaders don't fit into one mold. You can make your own mold. Anybody can be a leader. So in order to get to know each other a little bit better, we're going to break into a few groups, and each group is going to come up with 3 things that they have in common. This is really important because diverse teams just are better teams than those that are not. So everybody get together and come up with 4 things that you have in common, and don't take the easy route. So don't say that we all live in Iowa City or that we're all high school students. We want you to go a little bit deeper than that. So we'll split up and do that now. And then now we'd like all of the groups to share their 3 things that they have in common. Thank you guys. I'm sure you noticed that there is a lot of things that you did not have in common and a lot of things that you did have in common. And that's great. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be a leader. And Anthony's going to do that for us.
Thank you. So the ability to find things in common within a group is a very common leadership trait. And that leads us to our discussion of the main topic, which is what does it take to be a leader? There are a lot of things that make someone a leader. There's a lot of different ways to become a leader. You can be appointed a leader, or you can sort of earn it through work. But we thought, relating to your group, is that the most likely leadership role that you will have as a group leader, probably like either in school or maybe in G-World. And so to give you a benefit from this workshop, we're trying to figure out ways that we can help you to become better leaders. Each one of us are trying to become better leaders as well. That's why we're taking this class. And so leadership does not happen overnight. As much as we would love for you all to come out of this workshop where you're great leaders and you can go lead any group you want, it takes some time and there's some effort. So we're going to focus on leadership traits. We thought that would be a thing that everyone can identify with, and that we can all think of traits that we think are really good for any leader. And we would like people to recognize us as having those different traits. So one of the first things that we discovered that we thought was really interesting in the research that we've done for this class is that oftentimes leadership, great leaders will show some weakness. They are, the reason why is because you want to be able to identify with the people that you're working with in your group and the people that you're leading. You want to be able to have a connection with them in a way and make you a real person. You're not just the leader who has every single answer, but you're a real person. For example, I asked how many of you thought that I was a teacher, and so why is that? Why did you think that? And it's okay, you can say it. It's because I'm older, right? I'm older. I'm a male, and men are often, as we found from the riddle, men are often thought of as leaders. And so that stereotype of being a man and a leader, you would think that I have a bunch of confidence and that I could walk into any room or situation and be confident in what I'm doing. But that's not true. When I walk into a classroom, and please tell me if you feel this way as well, because I think a lot of people do. I walk into a classroom and I feel very nervous. I feel very nervous the first day of school, just like anyone else does. I look around the room and I see that everyone looks different from me. And that makes me nervous. It makes me feel like, how am I going to connect with any of the people here? And then as I look around, I start thinking, oh, what are they thinking about me? Who's the old guy? Is he lost? What's he doing here? And so I have to come in and swallow that down, and I have to try and make connections with the people that I work with in groups, and that's a weakness that I have to overcome. I would suggest that if you were in a group and you feel that way, and how many of you feel like that? How many of you feel nervous in a social situation? I think most people do. So a way that I would maybe help handle that in a group setting would be to volunteer that, hey, this is my first time leading this group, or this is my first time in a leadership role. I'm nervous about it, so I'm looking to all of you to give me some help, and so that we can work on this all together. So I really want to hear all of your ideas so that we can make this the best experience possible. So those kinds of things, that's the kind of thing that we want to do to try and connect with the people in our groups. So we'll write that up on the board, and then what we'd like to do is write out some other ideas, some other leadership traits that you think make a great leader. So you have the post-it notes in front of you there, so let's take a few minutes and we will just have you write down things that you think make a good leader, just qualities that you think would be great, and you can write a few down on one, or just however you want to do it, but write those out and then we'll come around and collect them.
Yeah, and as we come around and collect them, I will also be handing out a number of picture frames similar to the ones we have sitting here. And what we're going to do with the picture frame is, while we're on the topic of talking about traits, you can go ahead and pick some of the traits that we've talked about or ones that you think of after the fact and write them down. And you'll be able to take these picture frames with you as a constant reminder to strive to have these traits as becoming a leader. And you can put a picture of either someone that you care about, yourself, or a famous leader in there, and you could just have it to look at in the future. And this comes from a writer named Kevin Kruse, who talks about the importance of making a leadership user's manual where you write down what works for you as a leader. It's sort of a big project to take on, so we wanted to start a lot smaller and have you identify some of the traits that you think are important, and which is what you'll be putting on this picture frame. And you'll be able to do that as we continue on with our discussion. And now Cole is going to talk about differences in leaders.
Hey guys, I wanted to take this time to talk about differences. And to start this subject, I really wanted to open up with a quote from a Harvard Business Review from Warren Schmidt and Robert Tannenbaum. And the quote is, "It's tempting to think leaderships follow a continuum, one anchored by bad and great, with good somewhere in the middle." And this quote really stood out to me, to talk about differences, is because we can't measure leadership like we measure, say temperature or inches on a yardstick. And, that just continues on with, the overall, subject of this is there isn't a mold for leadership. Leaders make their own mold, and as you guys work on your picture frames, I want to point out something. If you look to the left or to the right of you, you might notice that, there's some trends that people are putting on their picture frames, but there is still a difference between, each person's picture frame on what qualities that they think make a good leader. And kind of rolling into that, I want to talk about, the differences that we as a team face. For example, Anthony is very different from the rest of us. He's a lot older. He grew up in the 70s and 80s. Tina grew up in a different area than Lily and Brendan. And I served in the military, and I have a lot different background than, my classmates here. We're all different, and we all have unique traits about us. And going forward, we really want to emphasize how leaders use their unique traits, to overcome, difficulties, working in group projects, or just working towards a goal in general. So great leaders talk about their differences. They recognize what makes them unique and what makes, leading people unique, and how to capitalize on each person's difference, to complete the overarching goal. So I want you guys to take a minute to kind of think about what makes you unique, what unique qualities that you bring to the table. We all grew up in different situations. We all react differently to different situations. Are you a thinker? Do you handle stress well? Are you great at public speaking? What is that? And being different, we also come with a lot of different stereotypes. For example, Anthony here, I hate to pick on him as much as I am, but Anthony's a lot older. A stereotype for old people is, they don't know the technology well. He doesn't know the difference between Facebook and Instagram, and so on. I'm from the military, and a lot of people have stereotypes about people who are in the military. Maybe it's that we're rigid, we're organized, we always think analytically, and I don't fit like that at all. I'm not very rigid. I like to think that I am a lot more creative than most people, and then in general, talking about Lily, myself, Brendan, we're all millennials, and what are those stereotypes that come with being a millennial, and how do we overcome that? How do we use those strengths? So to transition, I want to have Christine and Lily talk about some of the famous leaders.
So we're all going to split up into our groups from before, and in each of our groups, we just want you to start off by listing like some leaders that just come to mind. So we'll do that, and then the second part of this group activity would be talking about personal leaders to you. So who is the person that you look up to most? It could be a relative, family member, community member, or even a celebrity if you really look up to them. So we'll talk about those as well. And then at the end, we'd all like to share our personal leaders, and then one person from each group. We'd like you to share your leader as well.
Yeah, so then after that, we wanted to talk to you a little bit about local leaders as well in the Iowa City community. We think it's important that we just don't talk about personal leaders or famous leaders, but to look at people in our own communities that have these traits as well. So the first one that we have for you is Frederick Newell. He is the executive director and founder of the Dream Center, which is an Iowa City-based community organization that strengthens and empowers families through programs directed at fathers and youth. These different programs focus on building skills such as respect, self-esteem, and personal development. Our next example is Henry Harper, who has past service experience at City High School, working with an energetic team of visionary administrators and educators who championed a remarkable diversity awareness program. Our next example is Latasha Deloche of the Sankofa Outreach Center, which is an organization built to improve the quality of life for women of color in Iowa. And then our last example is Rakisha Harrington, who I think we all know in this room. Ms. Harrington serves on a diverse range of boards and committees, including Habitat for Humanity, Juvenile Justice Youth Development, Iowa City Area Juneteenth, the Neighborhood Centers for Johnson County, and the Iowa Children's Museum. And she's also a co-founder of G-World, as well as the Sankofa Outreach Center. She views these different volunteer opportunities as a way to stay informed and be a well-rounded citizen. And now we're going into our conclusion.
So to conclude all the points that we talked about today, we can see that there's leaders all around us. All leaders have different traits, and everybody has the potential to be a leader. So why is this important? So we're going to think back to how we started our presentation with the riddle, and how do we change how people answer this question? So by going out and being the best leaders that we can be, not only recognizing common traits in the people around us, but embracing the differences that we all have, we can bring a new perspective to getting work done. And if we can do that, then future generations will answer this riddle without even thinking about it. So next we will then end by passing out some note cards to ask you guys some questions for feedback, and then we can begin our little question and answer session where you guys can ask us anything related to college and life in general. Thank you.
Thank you guys.